The stifling air of the small church in Willow Creek, Colorado seemed to press down on Sophia Adams like a physical weight as she stared at her own trembling hands. The year was 1876, and in this moment, she felt like the most trapped woman in the entire western frontier. Miss Adams. The pastor's voice cut through her thoughts. Your vows, please. Sophia looked up at the man she was supposed to marry, Thomas Radcliffe, a wealthy banker twice her age who had made an arrangement with her father following their family's financial ruin. His eyes were cold, calculating, watching her like a predator eyeing its meal. She started, her voice barely a whisper. The small church was packed with the town's most prominent citizens, all invited by Thomas to witness his acquisition of the once wealthy Adams family's beautiful daughter. Her father stood near the front, his expression a mixture of sympathy and desperate resignation. A sudden gust of wind burst through the open church doors, carrying with it the scent of sage and freedom. The delicate veil that had been carefully pinned to Sophia's hair caught the draft and tore with a decisive rip, floating away like a ghost escaping its chains. Gasps echoed through the church, as Sophia's unobscured face revealed tears streaming down her cheeks. She looked toward the door and saw him, a tall figure silhouetted against the bright afternoon sun. His stance was relaxed, yet somehow commanding, one thumb hooked casually in his belt as he leaned against the doorframe. "Pardon the interruption," said the stranger, his voice deep and calm as he stepped into the church. His boots made a steady rhythm on the wooden floor. "But I don't believe this lady wants to be getting married today. Not to this man, at least." Thomas's face reddened with rage. "Who the devil are you to interrupt my wedding?" The stranger removed his hat, revealing tousled dark hair and striking green eyes that locked directly with Sophia's. "Name's Vincent Irwin, and I reckon a wedding ought to be something both parties want, not just one." Thomas lunged forward, but Vincent sidestepped him easily. "Miss," Vincent said, addressing Sophia directly, "I know we're strangers, but I've been watching how this town works for 2 weeks now. I've seen how this man treats his business partners, his servants, his horses. I couldn't stand by and watch him claim another possession." He extended his hand. "You have a choice, always have." Sophia looked at Vincent's outstretched hand, then to her father's defeated face, then to Thomas's furious one. Her heart pounded so loudly she was certain everyone could hear it. "You impudent drifter," Thomas spat. "Sheriff, remove this man immediately." The sheriff rose reluctantly from his pew, hand hovering near his gun. Vincent never lowered his hand, his eyes still fixed on Sophia's. "Miss, I ain't proposing anything improper. But if you don't want this marriage, you don't have to go through with it. Be someone's bride by choice, not obligation, whether that's mine someday or someone else's." The church fell silent as every eye turned to Sophia. Time seemed suspended as she stood trapped between the life planned for her and an uncertain future. Then, with a sudden clarity that felt like waking from a long nightmare, Sophia lifted her skirts and stepped down from the altar. The collective gasp from the congregation seemed to propel her forward, and she placed her trembling hand in Vincent's. "I cannot do this," she announced, her voice stronger than she expected. "I am sorry, Father, I am sorry, Mr. Radcliffe, but I will not sell myself, even to save our family name." With those words, Sophia Adams fled the church with the mysterious cowboy, leaving behind a shocked congregation, a furious groom, and the tattered remains of her wedding veil fluttering in the dusty church aisle. Outside, the bright Colorado sunshine momentarily blinded Sophia. Vincent led her quickly to where 2 horses waited, a magnificent chestnut stallion and a dappled gray mare. "Can you ride, Miss Adams?" Vincent asked, already helping her gather her elaborate wedding dress. "Yes," she replied, grateful that her father had insisted on teaching her despite her mother's protests that it wasn't ladylike. "But where are we going? I don't even know you." Vincent's expression softened. "Somewhere safe first. My friend has a homestead about 10 miles from here. After that, it's your choice. I meant what I said in there. I'm not expecting anything from you." Sophia hesitated only briefly before allowing Vincent to help her mount the gray mare. Behind them, angry voices spilled from the church. "We need to move," Vincent said, swinging easily onto his stallion. Thomas Radcliffe isn't a man who takes humiliation lightly. They rode hard for nearly an hour, Sophia's elaborate wedding dress billowing behind her like a ridiculous white flag. The mountains rose majestically before them, and despite the danger and uncertainty of her situation, Sophia felt something she hadn't experienced in months' freedom. When they finally slowed to give the horses a rest, Vincent handed Sophia his canteen. "You're quite a rider, Miss Adams, especially in that dress. Please call me Sophia," she said, taking a grateful drink. "And thank you for what you did back there. But I must ask, why would you risk yourself for a woman you don't even know?" Vincent's gaze drifted to the horizon. "2 years ago, my sister was forced into a marriage to settle my father's debts. 6 months later, she took her own life." His voice grew quiet. "I swore I'd never stand by and watch that happen to another woman if I could help it." Sophia's throat tightened with emotion. "I'm so sorry about your sister." Vincent nodded, then changed the subject. "We should reach Daniel's place before nightfall. His wife Martha will have something more practical for you to wear." By sunset, they arrived at a modest but well-kept homestead nestled in a small valley. A bearded man rushed out to greet them, followed by a plump, kind-faced woman who gasped at the sight of Sophia in her wedding dress. "Vincent Irwin, what trouble have you brought to our door now?" the woman asked, though her tone held more amusement than anger. "Martha, Daniel, this is Miss Sophia Adams. She needed rescuing from a wedding she didn't want," Vincent explained. Martha clicked her tongue sympathetically. "Poor dear, come inside, I'll find you something proper to wear and fix you something to eat. You must be exhausted." Inside the cozy cabin, Sophia changed into a simple cotton dress and washed the church dust from her face. As she sat down to a hearty stew, she realized just how hungry she was. She'd been too nervous to eat anything that morning. "So what's your plan now, Vince?" Daniel asked as they ate. Vincent glanced at Sophia. "That depends on what Miss Adams wants." All eyes turned to her, and Sophia realized she hadn't thought beyond escaping the church. I don't know, I can't go back to Willow Creek. Thomas will be furious, and my father." She trailed off, the weight of her actions finally hitting her. "I have an aunt in Denver. Perhaps she would take me in." "Denver's at least 4 days' ride," Vincent said. "And Radcliffe's likely to send men looking for you. He doesn't strike me as the type to let go easily." "You could stay here a spell," Martha offered. "At least until things settle down." Daniel nodded in agreement. "We could use the help anyway, with the baby coming." Sophia noticed for the first time the slight swell of Martha's belly. "I wouldn't want to impose." "Nonsense," Martha said firmly. "Any woman brave enough to flee her own wedding rather than marry a man she doesn't love deserves a safe haven." That night, lying in the small but comfortable bed Martha had prepared for her, Sophia stared at the ceiling, replaying the day's events. Just that morning, she had resigned herself to a loveless marriage to save her family from ruin. Now she was miles away, sheltered by strangers, her future completely uncertain. And then there was Vincent Irwin, the mysterious cowboy who had risked everything to offer her a choice. Who was he really? A drifter with a code of honor seemed almost too romantic to be real. Yet there was something in his eyes that spoke of genuine decency and pain that matched her own. The next morning, Sophia woke to find Vincent already outside, helping Daniel repair a fence. She watched him from the window, noting the easy strength in his movements and the gentle way he handled the tools, careful not to damage Daniel's property. Martha joined her at the window. "He's a good man, that one, too restless to settle down, though." "How do you know him?" Sophia asked. "Saved Daniel's life 2 years back. Some rustlers jumped him while he was bringing cattle to market. Vincent stepped in, took a bullet in the shoulder for his trouble." Martha smiled fondly. "He stops by every few months, helps out, then moves on, never stays longer than a week." "Where does he go?" Martha shrugged. "Wherever the wind takes him, I reckon. He was a Texas Ranger for a while, then did some scouting for the Army. Now he just drifts, taking odd jobs, helping folks who need it." Over the next few days, Sophia found herself settling into life at the homestead. She helped Martha with cooking and preserving vegetables from their garden, learning skills her privileged upbringing had never required. In the evenings, they all sat around the fire, with Daniel telling tall tales of his younger days while Martha knitted baby clothes. Vincent remained somewhat of a mystery, though. He worked hard during the day but said little about himself. Sophia often caught him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. On the fourth evening, as Daniel and Martha retired early, Sophia found herself alone with Vincent on the porch. The night was clear, with stars scattered across the sky like diamonds on black velvet. "Your riding has improved," Vincent commented, breaking the comfortable silence. Sophia smiled. "Martha's trousers make it much easier than a wedding dress." Vincent laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "I imagine most things are." "Have you heard anything from town?" Sophia asked, the question that had been weighing on her mind. Vincent's expression grew serious. "Daniel spoke with a trader yesterday. Radcliffe's offering a reward for information on your whereabouts, calling it a kidnapping." Sophia's stomach clenched. "I've put you all in danger." "You've done no such thing," Vincent said firmly. "Radcliffe's the dangerous one. Men like him think they own everything they touch. Still, I should move on to Denver soon. I can't hide forever." Vincent nodded slowly. "I'll take you when you're ready. Make sure you get there safely." "Why are you helping me?" Sophia asked, truly puzzled by his continued assistance. Vincent was quiet for so long that Sophia thought he might not answer. Finally, he said, "Because everyone deserves the freedom to choose their own path, even if that path leads away from me." The simple honesty in his words touched something deep inside Sophia. For the first time since meeting him, she truly looked at Vincent Irwin not as her rescuer or a mysterious drifter, but as a man. A handsome, principled man whose quiet strength had become a comfort she hadn't known she needed. The next morning, Daniel burst into the house, his expression grave. "Riders coming, 5 of them, and they're not here for social calls." Vincent was immediately alert. "Radcliffe's men," Daniel nodded, "recognized Peterson, the sheriff's deputy. They're about 10 minutes out." "Martha, take Sophia to the root cellar," Vincent instructed. "Daniel and I will handle this." "No," Sophia said firmly. "I won't hide while you risk yourselves for me. This is my problem." Vincent started to argue, but something in Sophia's determined expression stopped him. "All right," he conceded, "but stay inside with Martha. Let us talk to them first." Sophia agreed reluctantly, moving to the window where she could watch as Vincent and Daniel positioned themselves in front of the house, casually but strategically placed. The riders approached slowly, clearly trying to appear non-threatening. Sophia recognized Deputy Peterson and 2 of Thomas's business associates. The other 2 were clearly hired guns, their expressions hard and calculating. "Morning, gentlemen," Daniel called out as they approached. "What brings you out this way?" Peterson shifted uncomfortably in his saddle. "Looking for a missing woman and the man who took her. Thomas Radcliffe's bride was kidnapped from the church on her wedding day." Vincent's posture remained relaxed, but Sophia could see the tension in his shoulders. "Kidnapping's a serious charge. Got any proof?" "Whole church saw him grab her," one of Thomas's associates said. "Mr. Radcliffe is offering a substantial reward for her safe return and the capture of the kidnapper." "And what does the lady say about all this?" Vincent asked. The men exchanged glances. "She's clearly been coerced," Peterson said, not meeting Vincent's eyes. "Mr. Radcliffe is very concerned for her safety." Sophia had heard enough. Despite Vincent's warning, she stepped out onto the porch. "I was not kidnapped," she announced clearly. "I left of my own free will." The men's heads swiveled toward her, surprise evident on their faces. She walked forward to stand beside Vincent, drawing strength from his presence. "Miss Adams," Peterson said, removing his hat, "your father is sick with worry. Mr. Radcliffe has assured us he harbors no ill will for your impulsive decision. He's willing to proceed with the wedding as if nothing happened." "How generous of him," Sophia replied coldly. "But I'm not returning to marry Mr. Radcliffe. Not today, not ever. Please convey that message to him and tell my father I am safe and well." One of the hired guns moved his hand toward his holster. "We're not leaving without you, miss." Vincent's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. The lady has made her choice clear." "This doesn't concern you, Drifter," the man growled. "When you threaten a lady on my friend's property, it concerns me greatly," Vincent replied. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Sophia's heart hammered in her chest as she watched the standoff. terrified that violence would erupt at any moment. Then, unexpectedly, Deputy Peterson sighed heavily. "Miss Adams, is this truly your wish, to abandon your father and your responsibilities?" The question struck Sophia like a physical blow. She thought of her father, of the financial ruin that had driven him to accept Thomas's offer. But then she thought of a lifetime tied to a cold, controlling man who saw her as nothing more than a possession. "My wish is to live honestly," she said finally. "Tell my father I love him, but I cannot sacrifice my entire life, even for him." Peterson studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well, I'll convey your message." He turned to his companions. "Mount up, we're leaving." The hired guns looked incredulous. "But the reward," one began, "isn't worth getting killed over," Peterson cut him off. "And kidnapping charges won't stick if the lady says she left willingly." He tipped his hat to Sophia. "Good day, Miss Adams." As the riders disappeared down the trail, Sophia felt her knees weaken with relief. Vincent steadied her with a gentle hand on her elbow. "You were very brave," he said quietly. Sophia looked up at him, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. "I'm just tired of others making my decisions for me." That evening, as they all sat around the dinner table, Daniel raised his cup in a toast. "To Sophia Adams, the bravest bride that wasn't I've ever seen." Sophia blushed but raised her cup as well. "To friends who take in strangers and stand by them." Later, as she helped Martha with the dishes, the older woman said casually, "Vincent's planning to leave tomorrow." Sophia nearly dropped the plate she was drying. "So soon, but I thought he was going to help me get to Denver." Martha gave her a knowing look. "That was before today. Now he thinks you're safe, that Radcliffe won't pursue you further." "And you don't think so?" Martha shrugged. "Men like Radcliffe don't give up easily, but that's not why I'm telling you." "Then why?" "Because in 2 years of knowing Vincent Irwin, I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Sophia's cheeks warmed. "He barely knows me." "Sometimes knowing someone's heart doesn't take long," Martha said wisely. "That man's been running for years. Maybe he's finally found something worth staying for." That night, Sophia couldn't sleep. The thought of Vincent leaving made her heart ache in a way she hadn't expected. In just a few days, he had become important to her, his quiet strength, his principles, the way his rare smile transformed his serious face. Unable to rest, she slipped outside, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders against the cool night air. She found Vincent sitting on a log near the barn, cleaning his revolver by the light of a small lantern. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked without looking up. "Martha says you're leaving tomorrow," Sophia said, sitting beside him, Vincent's hands stilled. "I've imposed on Daniel and Martha's hospitality long enough. Were you going to tell me?" He finally looked at her, his eyes reflecting the lantern light. "I was, in the morning." "And what about Denver, my aunt?" "I think you're safe now. Peterson will tell Radcliffe you left willingly. He may be angry, but he won't risk charges of forced abduction." Sophia studied his profile in the dim light. "So you're just going to leave, just like that?" Vincent carefully set his gun aside. "It's what I do, Sophia. I don't stay in one place for long." "Why not?" He was silent for a moment. "Because staying means caring, and caring means having something to lose." "Like your sister," Sophia said softly. Vincent nodded. "Like my sister, like my parents, like the men I served with in Texas. I've buried too many people I cared about." Sophia reached out hesitantly and placed her hand over his. "That's a lonely way to live, Vincent." He looked down at their hands. "I'm used to it." "What if you didn't have to be?" The words left her mouth before she could think better of them. Vincent's eyes met hers, surprise and something deeper flickering in their depths. "What are you saying, Sophia?" Her heart pounded, but she pressed on. "I'm saying I don't want you to leave, not yet." "Why?" "Because when you rescued me from that church, you offered me a choice. Now I'm making it." She took a deep breath. "I choose to get to know the man who risked everything for a stranger. I choose to see where this path might lead." Vincent's expression softened. "Sophia, you've just escaped one unwanted commitment. I won't trap you in another." "It's not a trap if it's what I want," she said simply. Vincent reached up slowly, as if giving her time to pull away, and touched her cheek. "You deserve better than a drifter with nothing to offer. You offered me freedom when no one else would. That's worth more than all of Thomas Radcliffe's money." In the soft lantern light, with the stars twinkling above, Vincent Irwin kissed Sophia Adams. It was gentle and questioning at first, then deeper as she responded. When they finally parted, both were breathless. "I still need to go to Denver," Sophia whispered. "I need to see my aunt, let her know I'm safe, and I need time, Vincent. Time to figure out who I am when I'm not being someone's daughter or someone's almost bride." Vincent nodded. "I understand, but I'd like it if you came with me. Not as my rescuer or protector, but as—" She hesitated. "As what?" he prompted. Sophia smiled. "As someone who might someday hear me say wedding vows, I actually want to speak." The weeks that followed were transformative for both Sophia and Vincent. They traveled to Denver together, where Sophia's Aunt Beatrice, a wealthy widow who had always disapproved of her brother's gambling habits, welcomed her with open arms and surprising understanding. "Your mother would be proud," Aunt Beatrice told her. "She married for love, you know, against her parents' wishes. Your father was quite the charmer in those days before the gambling took hold." With her aunt's support, Sophia began building a new life in Denver. She discovered a talent for bookkeeping while helping with her aunt's charitable foundation, and soon she was earning her own modest income. Vincent, true to his restless nature, took various jobs around Denver, sometimes riding with shipping companies as security, other times helping local ranchers. But unlike before, he always returned to the city, to Sophia. Their courtship was unconventional by society's standards. They rode together through the foothills, talked for hours about books and ideas, and gradually shared the deeper parts of themselves. Vincent spoke of his years as a ranger, of the violence he'd seen and sometimes participated in. Sophia told him of her mother's death, her father's decline into gambling and drinking, and the gradual loss of everything she had once taken for granted. 6 months after their dramatic meeting, Vincent and Sophia sat on a bench in Denver's newly established city park. The late autumn air was crisp, with golden leaves falling around them. "I received a letter from my father yesterday," Sophia said, watching a leaf spiral to the ground. Vincent tensed slightly beside her. "What did he say?" "He's sober, has been for 3 months. He's working as a clerk for a mercantile in Santa Fe." She smiled. "He asked my forgiveness and said he was proud of me for having the courage he lacked." Vincent took her hand. "Are you going to visit him, eventually?" "But I told him I'm building a life here now." She turned to face Vincent. "A life I hope will include you." Vincent's expression grew serious. "Sophia, there's something I need to tell you. I've been offered a position as marshal in a town called Pine Ridge, about 40 miles west of here. The current marshal is retiring, and he recommended me based on my ranger experience." Sophia's heart skipped. "A permanent position," Vincent nodded, "with a house provided. It's a small town, but growing. They need someone who can keep the peace as more settlers arrive." "And you're considering it?" Sophia asked carefully, hardly daring to hope. "More than considering. I accepted this morning." Vincent shifted to face her fully. "I'm tired of drifting, Sophia. For the first time in years, I want to build something lasting." Sophia squeezed his hand. "What changed, you?" he said simply. "You made me remember what it's like to care about tomorrow." Vincent reached into his pocket and pulled out a small ring with a modest sapphire. "This was my mother's. I've carried it with me all these years, never thinking I'd find someone to give it to." Sophia's eyes widened as he slid off the bench and knelt before her, heedless of the curious glances from passers-by. "Sophia Adams, I'm not a wealthy man. I can't offer you mansions or fine things. But I can offer you my heart, my protection, and my promise that you will always have choices with me. Will you be my bride by choice, not obligation?" Tears filled Sophia's eyes as she looked at the earnest face of the man who had changed her life that day in the church. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. Their wedding, held in Pine Ridge's small church the following spring, couldn't have been more different from the ceremony Sophia had fled. Her dress was simple but elegant, made by her own hands with help from Martha, who had traveled from her homestead with Daniel and their new baby girl. Aunt Beatrice sat in the front row, alongside Sophia's father, who had made the journey from Santa Fe, his eyes clear and proud as he walked his daughter down the aisle. And at the altar waited Vincent, his usually serious face transformed by a smile of such pure joy that it brought tears to Sophia's eyes all over again. When the pastor asked for their vows, Vincent spoke with unwavering certainty. "I promise to love you, honor you, and respect your choices all the days of my life." Sophia, her heart full to bursting, replied, "I promise to stand by your side, to share your burdens and your joys, and to choose you freely and gladly every day for the rest of our lives." As they spoke there, Sophia thought of how differently her life might have turned out if not for a torn veil and a brave cowboy with the courage to speak up. When Vincent kissed her as his wife, she knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. 3 years later, Marshal Vincent Irwin stood on the porch of his comfortable home at the edge of Pine Ridge, watching his wife tend to their garden while their 2-year-old son played nearby. The town had grown substantially, becoming a respectable stop on the railroad line, with Sophia's bookkeeping business thriving alongside Vincent's respected position as marshal. "Papa home," little Thomas cried, spotting his father and running toward him with arms outstretched. Vincent scooped up his son, marveling as he always did at the perfect little person he and Sophia had created. Sophia looked up from her gardening and smiled, that same smile that had captured his heart years ago in a dusty Colorado church. "Welcome home, Marshal," she called, walking toward them with her hand resting on the slight swell of her belly, where their second child was growing. As Vincent embraced his family, he thought about the choice to step into that church, the choice Sophia made to leave with him, and all the choices that had led them here, to this perfect moment of belonging. Some called it destiny. Vincent called it the best decision he ever made.